In today's video, I'm talking about selfishness. There is a known trap in spiritual development. The more you pursue spiritual enlightenment, the more self-centered you tend to become. I think this is a very well-known trap, and despite it being said multiple times in multiple places, I think I've fallen for it. So for the past couple of weeks, I've been feeling a little bit down. I mean, nothing major. I still went on with my life, but my mood is cyclic. So I have these days where I feel a little more stressed and more negative. I get very jealous of other people, and I tend to compare myself to others in those times. And this, of course, isn't the first time that this has happened to me. In fact, I got myself onto this journey of personal development and spiritual development because I wanted to be happier. I wanted to create a better life for myself and get rid of these tendencies to get jealous and to get negative and to get caught up in comparing myself with others. And on this journey, by listening to other people's stories, by reading books, I realized that to be happier and to have a better life, I have to work on myself first. So my understanding of my situation kind of shifted. Instead of blaming on the external circumstances, I realized the problem was me, right? It was the way I perceived things and how my attitude towards things that shaped how my life was. So in order to have a better life, it wasn't my parents, it wasn't my friends or my circumstances that I needed to change, but my attitude towards it, hence working a lot on myself. So this is the conclusion I've arrived at along this journey. So I did a lot of introspection, I meditated more, and I started reading more books and just trying to find different ways to be more mindful. But in this whole process, I was missing one very important element. So what I've failed to understand until very recently is that very paradoxically, the works that you do on the innermost aspects of yourself isn't about yourself after all. And if it ends up being so, then you simply miss the point, and ultimately you won't be happy at all. So while I was doing all of this work on myself, I got a lot of benefits. I think my life got more organized, I got more productive, and overall, I think I was happier than before because I did fix up a lot of bad habits in my life and picked up some good habits. I've seen growth in my life that I was never able to achieve before. But the problem is, meanwhile, I kind of just cut everything else out of the picture. It was myself and myself only. I've neglected that there is a world beyond myself, and there is the bigger picture. As a result, I became more selfish. I think I was less tolerant towards other people, and I kind of put my needs and my desires in the foremost plan and never really put myself in other people's shoes. So now in retrospective, I can kind of see why this happened. I mean, when I have a very strict schedule in my day and I just wanted to get things done, my main focus is to get all of those things done on the list. While my life kind of becomes this list, and whenever there is someone or something that steps into that list, I can get very impatient and even angry sometimes for those things or people to have screwed up my plan. So I was less spontaneous and very rigid and just focused on heighten myself, so much so that I was able to do things so that I would become better and other people less. So I also became so focused on this path of spiritual development that I somehow started to see them as my own. The different techniques or the different insights that have worked for me. And as a result, I developed this very possessive feeling and possessive idea around this realm of spiritual development, to the point where I would get jealous of other people for having discovered the same technique and have those techniques work for them the way that it did for me. So in a way, I was holding the progress that I've made on this path as a weapon against others, and as a material or object that I owned that I didn't want others to have. But this is all nonsense, because the whole point was to get rid of these identities that I have and let go of these attachments in the first place. But you see how the mind is just so tricky that it's gonna use anything to reinforce its identity. And so in my case, it used this idea of personal development as a masquerade, right? As an excuse to be more selfish. And it took me a while to even come to that realization. There were a few events in the past couple of months that have hit me, and cumulatively they've made me realize that, wow, what a selfish person I still am, even after all of this work that I've done on myself. So I guess what I've discovered through all of this is you live in a world where your actions create consequences, and your actions impact people that are around you. While the work that you do has to be on yourself, you have to realize that it isn't for yourself. It really is for the people around you and for the world that you live in. It's not the spiritual development that created this selfishness in me. I was already selfish. It was already in me. And it manifested through all areas of my life. It's like spirituality was a lens that magnified that selfishness, but at the same time, it has allowed me to see through. So what am I gonna do moving forward, knowing that this is the trap that I've fallen into? So a question that I'd like to use to guide myself is, what can I do to help somebody? What can I do to genuinely make it a little better for that person? And secondly, it's just to deal with the things that I really don't like about the people that are close to me. I'm sure we all have people or things or traits of people that we really don't like. And they can really trigger us on a daily basis if those people are people that you live with or people that you're very close with. So I'd like to kind of ask myself that question. How do I learn to accept those things? For now, I don't have an answer, and I think by asking myself those questions would be a good start. But otherwise, thank you for watching.
Alors là, c'est l'hécatombe, je manque de